You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
Well, we talk about the issue of voting, of course, that also deals with what's going to be happening with COVID-19 and mail-in voting. Last week, a letter was sent to Donald Trump and signed by 6 members of Congress addressing his continued attacks on mail-in voting. It reads in part, "We write today in response to your continued attacks on vote by mail, the American public's best opportunity to safely participate in the upcoming November elections. Over 4.3 million Americans have been diagnosed with COVID-19, and tragically, nearly 150,000 have died as a result of complications from the virus. While we all hope this crisis will subside quickly, the scientific uncertainty surrounding it necessitates that we take action now to prepare for the safe administration of elections in November in the event that it does not. As President of the United States, you should be ensuring all states, territories, and the District of Columbia have the election administration infrastructure they need so all Americans may exercise their constitutional right to vote without fear of contracting the virus." In a moment, we're going to be joined by Michigan Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, who is leading this charge. But here's the deal that we also have to deal with. So, yes, we want people to be able to get registered. We want them to be able to get out there and vote. The problem is that you have certain cutoff periods, Robert, where even in states where it's allowed, a lot of ballots are being thrown out if they're not received by a certain period. I'm going to bring the story up in just a second. That's why I'm trying to get people not to wait to the last second to be able to get information out, to get your ballot in. Do it early so you're not caught trying to rush at the last second mailing it in, and your ballot may not be counted.
You're absolutely right. I think we really have to focus more so than in any other election on the concept of early voting. In the African American community in particular, people do not trust the vote by mail system, particularly older African American voters who are used to voting in the exact same electoral precinct every single year in and year out. Historically, we've seen more conservatives, more white people using vote by mail options because black folks just simply do not trust the system. They feel like their ballot will be thrown out. They'll end up soaring the Chattahoochee River and not getting counted on Election Day. In addition to this, we saw in the Georgia primary this year that only 96.4% of ballots actually got delivered to the person who requested them, and a unknown percentage were thrown out because of things such as signatures not matching the documentation provided. In states where you have to request a absentee ballot, such as Georgia, you have to first request it, then they send you an email, then you email them back with a license or some documentation showing where you live at, then they send you your absentee ballot in the mail. These are steps that many people are not taking. So as we get closer, under 100 days until this election, Republicans, including the Speaker of the House in Georgia, Ralston, including Senator Ted Cruz, including Donald Trump, have said that if we have vote by mail and we have full turnout, then they will never win another election again. So we have to impress upon our young people how important it is to turn out, to vote early, get it out of the way. Don't wait till Election Day when you're in a 5 or 6 hour long line and we're bringing in election monitors. Get it done as soon as the early voting period opens up, get registered, and get out there and vote.
The thing I'm sitting here looking at, this is the headline of a piece in the Washington Post. Scott, Trump just told us how mail delays could help him corrupt the election. Greg Sargent wrote this piece. This is what he said. Here's an additional reason for alarm that needs more attention. The impact of those delays could be dramatically exacerbated by state laws that invalidate ballots that are mailed before Election Day but arrive after Election Day. Guess which key presidential swing states have such provisions invalidating ballots that arrive after Election Day? All of them do, with the exception of North Carolina.
I think Washington D.C. is different, but I'll take his report for what it's worth. Again, the voter suppression piece with a race-neutral reason with a negative racial impact. It's the only way that they can win. But don't get caught up in just that. When Attorney General Barr and the president tell you that the greatest threat to the election and voting and mail-in voting is that some foreign country, this is a quote, some foreign country could stuff the ballot box with fake ballots, and we don't know where they come from, and they could jack up, essentially, the election results in each state. Now, the last time we heard him say something like that was, Russia, come find the email, Hillary Clinton's emails, and they did. Sounds like a 2020 invitation to me for corruption from some foreign country, even if they manufacture the threat. And then lastly, we know that the mail-in ballot system is not only safe and secure, but it hurts Republicans too, not just Democrats, because if you look at some of these state races and the governors who are promoting, these are Republican governors promoting, and Secretary of State promoting mail-in voting because of the coronavirus. It's a mixed message, and I can tell you, many congressmen at the state level and at the federal level and the senators are very concerned about this mixed message because it hurts them too.
That's the thing, Julian, when you begin to look at this whole process here, and we talk about what's going on, and it's the same thing when it comes to the census. Mm-hmm. We have to use our black platforms to tell our people and arm them with information, and that's the phrase "information is power," and that's the problem. Look, your gossip sites, your entertainment sites, they aren't focused on this, and so that's why my whole deal is, if you're going to vote by mail, get your request in now for your ballot. And when it arrives and when that window opens, fill it out, sign it, follow everything. Make sure your name is right, your signature is right, everything is right, and then mail it in so it's not invalidated.
That's the most important thing, Roland, is for people to get on it early. The rules change state by state, but if you don't know what the rules are, call your Board of Elections. You can do that, or go online and get the information from the Board of Elections. If you do an in-person ballot, make sure you know where your polling place is, because many places have cut back the number of in-person voting just because of the coronavirus. There are a lot of things that people can do. What I'm concerned about is the fact that the coronavirus has made it difficult for us to do the kind of town halls and rallies that we usually do. Our churches are probably going to be closed until, who knows. But usually we have, good preachers will encourage people to vote, and, many people will follow their minister's lead. So this is the most important election we have ever seen. And people say that every 4 years, Julianne, but this is really true.
Yeah, but Julianne, we've got to get better at doing this virtually. This is our new reality. And a lot of black people and brown people who are poor and disenfranchised cannot operate or function virtually because they don't have the systems. But the people that do have the systems, we've got to get them motivated and engaged on the virtual level, and then have them do outreach to those who are not engaged and who are disconnected. It's going to take a lot of work. And with Donald Trump polling 10% below, it's a real challenge.
I want to bring in Congresswoman Brendan Lawrence right now. Congresswoman, I'm looking at this story here from NPR, which said during the primary, some 65,000 absentee or mail-in ballots were rejected because they arrived past the deadline. And this story says those who use mail-in voting for the first time, especially young Black and Latino voters, are more likely to have their ballots rejected because of errors, according to Charles Stewart, a political scientist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology who studies election administration. You, in that letter y'all sent to Trump, make the point about it needs to be a clear and safe process. But this is going to be an issue that there has to be a massive education issues if people are going to be voting by mail and not going in person.
You're absolutely right, and that's why we sent the letter. There are so many glitches and issues with this vote by mail. We must do it because it's our democracy. The coronavirus created this. We did not sit on the sideline and say, oh, let's vote by mail. We think we can win that way. That's not the case. We're voting by mail because we don't have another option, and we must protect our democracy. Few people know, Roland, I worked for the Postal Service for 30 years. I moved up from a letter carrier up to mid-manager and have a district level job in the Postal Service. And I'm one of the few that are walking the halls of Congress as a member of Congress after working in the post office. I know exactly the game that they're playing, because now the Postmaster General is saying no overtime. Well, if you have mail and it's time for you to go, just leave it on the floor. Well, the reality is the next day there's going to be another pile of mail on top of that, and it keeps stacking. And if you're not regulating that and rotating the mail so that the oldest mail is on the top, the oldest mail goes out the door, then we're going to have this massive issue of ballots not getting back to the clerk's office to be counted. And it's really, really concerning for me, because I know what this looks like. And one of the things, I was at the polls yesterday. I won my election, my primary 93%. I'm very proud of that. But I'm at the polls working, and this lady who was sight impaired, an elderly lady, had someone walking her in, holding her arm. She said, "I have not been out of my house since March. I am scared to death." She said, "But they kept telling me I had a ballot, but it never made it to the house, and I was not going to not vote." And there's so many people that are not going to be that committed. But we've got a lot of work to do, but we got to keep our thumb, our knee, our foot, whatever we need to do on this administration, because the Postmaster General is an appointee of the president. He is a new person who never ran logistical operations like a postal service. He's coming in making all these changes, and it's going to have a really, really devastating impact on our ability. First of all, when you get an application and you send the application back, and then to take the ballot and put it back in the mail. I made a point of telling constituents throughout the campaign, do not mail your ballot back in. Take it to the clerk's office. You don't need to interact with anyone. I know in Michigan, there's a drop box or a container that you could just drop your ballot in. You didn't have to interact with any people, so you're safe. But we're going to have to do major education.
Well, again, that's going to be key, and that's also why you're going to have to, these campaigns. Look, the Biden campaign, DCCC, DSCC, all of the Democratic Governors Association, all of these different groups, even the labor unions and others, they're going to have to be able to put the resources there to be able to drive this messaging, and it has to be extremely targeted, targeting deadlines, targeting dates, all those different things, and it has to be a constant drumbeat so people are aware of what's going on.
You know how we used to say, take your souls to the polls? We're going to have to do some modification and say, can we pick up your ballot? If you can't, we would pick people up to take them to the polls. We might have to pick up ballots and drop them off in the box. But you don't want too many people doing that, because then that gets to be messy. But we got to figure out a way to get those polls and get the ballots to those voting clerk's office so they can be counted. And that's our biggest challenge right now, counting those ballots.
All right, then. Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Be blessed.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.